determinedness and model.
No.
He's exactly the same guy as Harry Byrd was. He was the guy who used to be KKK.
No, he wasn't in the KKK. Robert Byrd. Okay. But see, this is your whole case. Your whole case rests on one guy. Can you name 5 people? Name 5 Dixiecrats who became Republicans. Name them.
They got voted out of office when they died.
Name 5 guys in the Democratic Party who became Republicans. Can you? Oh, sorry. Better now? Okay, sorry.
I submit to you that there's no way that you can compare the Dixiecrat Party of 50 or 60 years ago with the current Democratic Party. Just because it has the same label is meaningless. And it's absurd to make the comparison between the two.
Can you compare the America of today to the America of pre-slavery?
That isn't relevant to
it is. If according to you that the analogy breaks down over 30 or 40 years, then America today surely bears no responsibility for what happened before 1865.
Well, I would submit, that I am not guilty of slavery. My ancestors may have been, but that's not the point of it.
But the point would be, wouldn't it, that because your ancestors did it and you might be the present-day beneficiary of previous oppression, you would at least be the upholder of some elements of privilege inherited from the past, right? Wouldn't that be?
I agree with that, and that's why I support affirmative action.
And why doesn't that apply to the Democratic Party too? That they would be the...
Because that's merely a label. The people that represented that party are dead. Long gone. They have nothing to do with the current Democratic Party. It's merely rhetorical trickery.
I mean, you know that Harry Byrd died in 2010,
so you're
right?
saying that 80% of African Americans who support the Democratic Party have no idea what they're thinking, and they're dupes by supporting the Democratic Party that used to be their enslavers. Of course they know that they were Democrats. Of course they know that. They support the Democrats now because they support their values. It's absurd to claim that the Democrats now have anything to do with the crimes that were committed many decades or centuries ago.
All right, I'll leave it at that, with only the proviso that it will take me too far afield to do full justice to what you just said. I think that, let me just tell you something that Charles Barkley, the basketball player, commented on. And he's talking about the present, not about the past.
He wants to run for governor in Alabama as a Republican, by the way.
Very interesting. Barkley goes, I've been noticing that poor people have been voting for the Democratic Party for 50 years, and they're still poor. Now, what's he getting at? I think what he's saying is that we have seen in Detroit, in St. Louis, in Baltimore, in the inner cities of this country, a kind of revival of the old, well, it's a new form of the old plantation. And what I mean by that is, if you think of the plantation as people living in complete dependency, they can't get off the plantation. Now, they get a basic provision on the plantation, but it's very meager. But nevertheless, it's enough to sustain you, and you're there and you're stuck. Now, I'm not saying that the inner city is the same. Obviously, it's not the same. People aren't being forced to work against their will, etc. In fact, a lot of them aren't working. But there is a certain kind of frozenness to the plantation. And what I notice is very bizarre and very telling, is that when there are efforts to change the plantation, they are vigorously fought by progressives and Democrats. So for example, in a lot of inner cities now, there are these gentrification movements in which yuppies come in with technology companies and they say, all right, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put in all these new buildings, we're going to create all these new jobs, we're going to open Starbucks, we're going to create all this enterprise, and we're going to make this into a kind of enterprise zone of productivity and prosperity. And we're also going to pay money to the people who are in there now so they can move elsewhere or stay here. And if they stay here, there are going to be more jobs, and there's going to be better food, and we're going to clean up the place, and crime rates will go down. And progressive Democrats will inevitably mobilize and fight desperately to block these gentrification schemes. More jobs, more prosperity, less crime, safer neighborhoods. What's not to like? And if you have to move, your property values have gone up already enormously, and so you can sell and cash out and move where you want. But no, you have to fight these. Why? Because you can't disrupt the plantation. The plantation has its uses. So that's all I'm going to say about this now. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that there are different forms of exploitation. If you have figured out a way to create a political class that you depend on politically, that's delivering 90% of its votes to you, and if any of those guys got jobs and moved out, they would no longer be beholden to you, that's not a very good situation. And it bears an uncanny resemblance to the policies of the past.